What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to episode 90 of Sunday Sessions with Rich podcast, man. If you're new, like, subscribe, comment. We have a whole lot of shit to talk about, okay? On today's episode, guys, I have Zuby stopping by, rapper who recently dropped his sixth album, Word of Zuby, available on all major music platforms. He's also the author of Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. He's a speaker, coach, and the host of one of my favorite podcasts, personally, Real Talk with Zuby podcast, which can be found on all streaming platforms. You can find him on Joe Rogans podcast as well. He's a media favorite, guys, people's champ. Zuby, welcome to the freaking show, my guy.
Appreciate the introduction, Richard. How you doing?
I'm pretty well, brother. Now, I know I listed a short red carpet to you, man, but for those who are new to you, let the people know who you are and what you got going on, bro.
No doubt, bro. Well, you covered it very well there. So I'm an independent artist, originally from the UK, born in the UK, family background originally from Nigeria. I was raised in Saudi Arabia, went to an international/American school out there, which is why my accent confuses a lot of people. And in terms of what I do, it all started out with just the music, which I started when I was studying at university.
Cool.
But I'm a full-time musician, a rapper. I've put out 9 projects in total, 6 albums and 3 EPs. I also host my own podcast, which I started in 2019 called Real Talk with Zuby. As you mentioned, I do public speaking, coaching, freelance consulting. I wrote and released my first book as well in 2019, which has done well and sold several thousand copies independently. And I'm also known as a socio-political commentator / modern day philosopher.
Trigger people.
Yeah, well, it's not my intention.
I do,
but it's a byproduct of what I do. So yeah, there we are. So I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. Some people follow multiple aspects of what I do. Some people are more interested in just one or two, but that's kind of who I am.
Hey, jack of all trades, bro. Jack of all trades. First and foremost, man, thank you for taking time to be on this show. Now, it seems like, let's just dive into it, man. It seems like the narrative right now is like losing its power with the whole fear propaganda. The media is going back on themselves and kind of just putting the tail between the legs kind of shit. Now, I know now it's a select few people, right, who actually just speak about the misjustice and all the evil shit that's going on, but you just kind of like have a Superman cape on and you just dodging bullets, bro. I was reading one of your tweets, I think it was this morning, and just I think there's a lot of bots on Twitter who just be throwing shade and just throwing nonsense. Do you think that, or you think it's like real people saying that shit?
I think it's a combination, man. I've been on Twitter for 12 years. So I've been on Twitter since 2009, and it's changed a lot in various ways. But something I have noticed in the last couple of years, beyond the increasing censorship of real people who are not doing anything wrong per se, but getting their accounts yeeted. Another thing I've noticed is just a huge influx of bots and anonymous accounts and propaganda. It wasn't always like that. So it's sometimes hard to tell the difference between a bot account and a real account. And I think they've gotten quite sophisticated.
Hell yeah.
And either way, there are certainly a lot of agents of chaos on that platform in particular. It's something that permeates all social media to some degree, and the internet in general. Yeah, but Twitter especially. And you really notice this once you have a big account. I mean, when I had, I don't know, even 10 or 20,000 followers, it was less noticeable. But now that I'm well beyond 500,000, it's like every single thing, you just get this influx of, I don't know whether they're people or they're bots, just trying to stir stuff up, really trying to stir stuff up, create chaos,
your clapback game,
create arguments, all that. And what's that?
Your clapback game strong with these people with ABC.
Yeah, it is, man. But you know, the thing is, like, I ignore 99% of it. Okay. That's something people don't realize. I don't think people realize what it's really like to have a big account. I get over 100. If I kept my notifications on, it would be over 100,000 a day.
God damn.
Right. Just Twitter. So, more than one per second. I get more than one interaction per second. And so people don't know what it's like to manage that. Every single day, my Twitter account's doing 5 to 6 million impressions. That's 5 to 6 million eyeballs seeing what I'm doing, thousands and thousands of interactions. And I'm still just one person. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
firstly, I am a person, right? And I think sometimes people forget that both people who support you and people who are against you, they forget, okay, you're actually dealing with a human being here.
The emotions and feelings.
And then I think people also, just don't realize like the volume and the scale, whether this is someone who genuinely supports you and likes you, and, you know, they send you something or they message you and they get upset that you don't respond or you don't respond quickly. Like they don't realize that, okay, this is one of another 10,000 messages I've got on here. Or people who are detractors or whatever, and they're trying to drag you into these arguments and debate you all the time and this and that. And it's like, look, I can't address all of this all. And I also don't owe you anything. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to spend my entire, I already spend too much time arguing on Twitter, but I actually, like I said, I ignore the vast majority. My thing is really it's always about the message. And I always want the focus to be on, you know, trying to inspire and motivate people. That's what I'm about. It's what I've always been about with my music, with everything I do. It's about being positive, trying to inspire and motivate people, encourage people to better themselves, to think better, to exercise, to eat better, to train their mind, train their body, strive for their dreams, all of that. That's what I'm about, which is why it's also extra bizarre when you get these, like I've got some serious people out there who don't like me. You know, well, let me not say they're serious people, but they're people who seriously don't like me out there. And you see this once in a while where something kind of goes viral or bubbles up out there, and you're seeing like hundreds, thousands of these accounts out there, you know, talking all this crazy stuff about me. And
I'm just trying to help people,
it's kind of what's that?
It's like, I'm just trying to help people. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's why it's strange, you know, and I'm not the only person this happens to. It happens on a bigger scale to guys like Joe Rogan and you know, Jordan Peterson. And it's so odd to me because we're living in this era, and maybe humanity's always been this way. I mean, you know, I'm a Christian, and I often remember, you know, Jesus was crucified, literally, right? Like the guy who's out there trying to help people, spread a positive message, tell the truth, whatever. And this is of all the people in society, this is the guy who you whip and you nail to a cross and kill. You know, and you even free a murderer in exchange for him. So maybe humanity's just always been wired that way. But I think it's so strange when I know in my heart of hearts, like I'm trying to put out a positive message out here, and I'm helping a lot of people and I'm motivating a lot of people. And I see the results of this online and offline. And then you've just got people who are either just totally missing the message,
negative Nancy's,
or they are just so disingenuous that they know you're doing something positive, but that somehow they're in such a warped mindset that angers them or frustrates them, and they want to take it out. They want to take it out on you. You know, if I were out there just spraying venom every day and then venom comes back at me, that's a different thing. But I'm not doing that. I'm actually very careful with my words. I'm very careful not to randomly attack people. Like you won't just see me randomly just going at people online. I mean, I could do that. I've got a big following. If I just wanted to like attack people, I could just.
But you do it with facts. You do it with facts. Somebody come at you.
Yeah, and I don't insult people. You know, if someone's like being super aggressive and insulting towards me, then okay, you know, the gloves can come off a little bit. But I'm a very polite dude. Like in the real world and even online, like I treat people with respect. I treat people with decency and civility, whether we agree or we disagree or we have the same, like whatever, man. We're all human beings. I'm not going out there just trying to upset people. Like that's really not how I roll, you know?
Bro. What I think, because I just think like with your message, like when I used the word trigger earlier, it was in the sense of like they see something in you that they don't have in themselves, so they get frustrated that they can't, you know, reach that level that you're at. Even it's just awareness, mindfulness, or just like a optimistic, upbeat person. They hate that shit because that's not them. So they're like, oh, Zuby, rah rah rah.
You know what's wild about it is that I believe more in these people than they believe in themselves.
Man.
That's why it's crazy, right? Because you use the word can't, and I don't believe that they can't. Right? I think every single individual in this world, we can all become better. All right. I'm far from perfect. Like I'm still on my journey and I'm documenting my journey, but we can all become better spiritually, physically, financially, our health, the way we treat each other, the way we think, the way, you know, I've said before, I'm not trying to tell people what to think, but I'm trying to encourage people to think. Right. So if I put an idea out there or ask a question publicly or whatever, I'm not here saying, look, this is absolutely it. I'm an oracle and I know everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, hey, what about this? This doesn't make sense. Or like, have you guys thought about this? Or what about this? Or what about that? But people don't even want you to ask questions. We're living in this age again where you're just supposed to shut up and just go along with whatever narrative is out there or whatever the guy on TV said. It doesn't matter if they're contradicting each other, or they said this 3 months ago and now they're saying this, or wait, last week you said this and now you're saying this, and they keep changing it and they keep shifting it. You're just supposed to go along with it blindly. And those of us who are like, wait, hang on, this isn't really making sense to me. I don't have all the answers, but what's going on? Why are they ignoring this? Why aren't they talking about this? And so I'm just there like, yo, guys, think, you know, we might reach different conclusions. I'm not going to tell you to do this or you must do that. Just let's think about it. Like, let's actually think, let's engage our brains. And that's generally what I practice. And I'm careful not to preach things that I don't practice. Yeah. So that's all it is. It's very simple. I actually think very few things I put out there are truly controversial. I think it is in a sane world and in a sane time. I think very little of what I say would be deemed in some crazy light. And what's also weird about it, Richard, is, like I said, I've been in the public eye to some degree for since the mid 2000s because of my music. And it's only in the past 2 or 3 years that I've somehow become controversial, right? Like I was always that, oh, you know, Zuby's that, oh, rapper from Oxford University, oh, really clean, kind of like Will Smith. He doesn't cuss. He's really clean. He's not into drinking and smoking and, you know, talking about all this stuff. It was almost like, and then now all of a sudden, I mean, yesterday I'm like looking through comments and stuff. People are calling me far right in the comments, or someone saying, oh, Zuby, far right rappers, far right?
Like what?
Like since when? And people are just saying this, and you're just like, what? Like when did I become far right? Like, how is that even? And people just throw things out there really recklessly. And it's like, well, what are you talking? You know, now far right, anti-vaxxer, anti-science, pro this, anti that. You're just like,
is that question shit?
Bro, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I've been called a white supremacist multiple times.
No.
A white supremacist? Like, just think about that for a second. Like, if it weren't, it would be deeply offensive were it not so funny.
Right.
Right.
Because you reaching, you just trying to hurt me, but knowing that this shit is just comical at this point.
Yeah. But how, in what world do you call a black guy a white supremacist? Like, based off like first, that's just not a thing.
That's not a thing.
Like that's not a thing. And but you're throwing that out there with no just thinking about, wait, hang on.
It's ignorance.
Is what I'm saying really making any sense? And I don't know. We live in a strange time. Fortunately, a lot of this stuff is primarily online, but now the gap between the real world and online world is very, very blurry. It's very, very blurry.
You're not gonna say this shit to me in public, me in person. So I don't know why you're using your little Twitter fingers.
No.
That's the wild part, man. They'll say the most outlandish shit, and I'm like, bro, you wouldn't say this shit to me in person. So I don't know what you're doing right now.
No, but this is the problem, and it's one of the problems of the internet in general, and having people kind of being these disembodied avatars. Where I think, with all social media, but I think in Twitter in particular, just because of the nature of it and how the speed of interaction is, I think people genuinely forget that they're talking to other human beings. Yeah. And this goes across the board. This goes on all sides. This is not unique to anybody, but you forget that, okay, there is another person who is on the receiving end of this thing. Yep. And I think in the real world, that's always checked and tempered because we can see each other. We can see people's reaction. You know, there's much more empathy in the real world. It's actually, you really have to be a psychopath or a very cruel person to directly want to, you know, see that you're harming somebody and kind of continue with it, or see that, you know, you're really upsetting someone or angering them or whatever, and you just keep going. Because in the real world, you know, number one, there's the empathy, but also number two, there are potential consequences. We all know, like, you can't just walk around outside and just talk complete crap to whoever you want and think that nobody is going to check you, right? It doesn't work like that. So I generally try to conduct myself online in the same way I do offline, right? Yeah. If I wouldn't say it to you in the real world, I'm not going to go there and just start saying like the wild stuff, you know? It's just like, look, if I say it on Twitter or I'll say it on Instagram or whatever, This is what I'll say in the real.
Yeah.
If anything, in the real world, I'll probably say a little bit more. But that's how I am. I always do my best to remember, okay, I'm talking to other human beings.
Yeah.
And sure, I'm not perfect like no one else is, but I'm at least cognizant of that fact. Whereas I think so many people forget it. And that's how you just get people going, just being so aggressive or so insulting, or, you know, when you just see people like dogpiling and attacking, like when it just goes completely off the hinges, which I've been on the receiving end of literally hundreds of times at this point. I'm kind of numb to it, but it's still a strange thing to experience where you're just like, whoa, like what is going on here? It's like this frenzy.
Like, did I hurt you? It's kind of like you talked about somebody's mom. It's how they like coming at you know, so aggressively. Like, I'm just helping you, just posing the thought of question this narrative. That's all I'm saying. And then you're just like, rah, 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 and it's like, bro,
yeah. And what's funny about it as well is like, I'm very pro-liberty. Like I'm a very pro-liberty person. So a lot of my positions are just like, hey man, you do you, I do me, laissez-faire. I'm not going to take your stuff. I'm not going to hurt you or attack you. You don't take my stuff or hurt me or attack me. Like you can live your life. I can live my life. We can have opinions, right? We can even have strong opinions, but I'm not going to cross that line of, okay, I'm going to try to force you to do this thing, or I'm going to try to get the government to impose this on you or whatever. Like, and that's been, especially over the past 2 years, this is really what's been going on, right? It's people who are just like, yo, just leave me alone. Yeah. Like, just leave me alone, right? You make your decisions. I make my decisions. You do what's best for you. Let me do what's best for me. Don't try to use the agents of the state to force something down my throat. Like that's not how it works, especially in the name of so-called health. Like I've been into health since before it was cool to talk about health, right? And now I've got people who are out of shape and don't even care about how like trying to lecture every day, man.
Not even in shape right now. You can't tell me about health.
Come on, man. Like let's be real. You've had some of the least healthy people in society giving lectures and making all these demands on people supposedly about health. And I'm just like, how?
You're a hypocrite what is this? At that point.
Yeah, it's a hypocrite, and it's so audacious. I'm just like, yo, like just leave me alone. That's all. That's all it is. This whole period, I have not tried to force anybody to do anything. Nope. I've always said, look, you want to stay at home, you're welcome to. You want to open your business, you want to close your business, you're welcome to. Do you want to wear a mask? God bless you. That's fine. I've never, right? How many thousands of people have I interacted with over two? I have not told anyone to put a mask on or to take one off, right? It's like, look, what works for you? You want to take this injection or this treatment? Go ahead. God bless you. I hope it works well. I want you to be healthy. You don't want to? Cool. That's your choice, right? I might have an opinion on what may make sense or what doesn't. Yeah. But it's not me. And I don't know everyone's details and history and this and
that. Some people need it. Some people don't.
Exactly. It's nothing unique. It's always been like that, right? Imagine in 2018 and you're like running around trying to like force somebody to take this medicine or force them to, they'd be like, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? Leave me alone. But somehow this has become normalized where that's considered okay. Not only okay, but good to go around to strangers, complete strangers. And you're telling them
what to do.
Yeah, not just what to do, what to freaking inject into themselves. Right? You wouldn't even go to someone, a stranger, and tell them what to eat. You wouldn't go to maybe you see an obese person on the street. You're not going to go up to them and be like, look, man, look, this is how you need to set up your diet. And this is like, they didn't even ask you. They didn't even ask your opinion, right? And you're like, just going up to them and telling them, or you're just going online and you're just like telling people, like, it's like, you wouldn't do that. It would be so impolite. It would be just uncivil. It would just be wrong. But now people think like, okay, I'm a hero because I'm going around trying to force this on people and force that on people. And I'm just like, yo, man, that's not a...
And they're like, you're selfish. You're selfish. You're not thinking about people. Like,
what? Like what's more selfish? Tell me what's more selfish? Me trying to force everybody in society to behave in a certain way or to take an action to make me feel safer, to make me feel good, versus me personally just taking the action that I need to feel safe. Me making that demand on everybody, on the whole society, the whole community, or me just being like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take these actions because I think this is going to protect me. Like, which of those is more selfish? Let's be real. It's crazy.
it just really goes to show like how easily impressionable people's minds are with just like information. Honestly, like if you can, because I've realized a lot during this shit. Seems like this should be going on for forever. Seems like for the past 2 years, people are just waiting for the next program, right? Waiting for the next like command to be like, okay, move to the left, move to the right. And then if you're not in that, it's just a code at this point. Let's just call it what it is. If you're not in this code per se, then like, you're an outsider. Bro, one thing I noticed, man. So being in the US and being in the UK in terms of like just the mandates and shit is different. So for example, when I'm not, we'll talk about like, I know you was traveling in the US too. I live in Chicago. So for example, they're like kind of like bullies with the whole mask shit. Like if you go in the store, they're like
much more aggressive in the US.
Yeah, much more aggressive. Like, where's your mask? Like, bro, I don't need to wear a mask. But out here, I'll go to Tesco, for example, and you'll get your little evil looks, but you can it's a mandate. A mandate isn't a law, and you have the right to, and they word it so cleverly to where you feel like you have to do it, but you don't really have to do it. And so I was tweeting this the other day. I said, the more you don't comply, you give others the strength to not be fearful. So the more you're complying, you're just going to tell people like, okay, this is what we have to do. But look, you have a choice. Don't forget that, people. You have a choice.
And people are not afraid of the virus at this point, man. For the vast majority, it's people are afraid of social judgment. That's what it is. People are afraid of social judgment. They're afraid of social stigma. They're afraid of those. You mentioned someone looking at you weird. That most people can't even deal with that, let alone someone saying something to them. People are very conflict averse, and that's not always a bad thing, right? Like it's silly to live your entire life intentionally seeking conflict all the time. But also you have to remember, because the reason why this is all very deep to me is because, this is going to sound heavy, but I now totally understand how the atrocities of the 20th century happened.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Right. So throughout my entire life, you study history, you look at Nazi Germany, or you look at Cambodia with Pol Pot, or you look at the Soviet Union, or you look at Maoist China, you see these mass movements of what looks like psychosis, which develops into murderous psychosis, Rwandan genocide, whatever it is. It's happened many, many, many times in history in different forms: Nazism, communism, ethno-supremacy. It can happen under different guises, even religious terrorism. It can happen in many different guises. And as a sane person, you look at this and you go, how did that happen? How did, less than 100 years ago, how did Germany, how did the German people, the German government, how did you get to the stage where you murdered, 6 million plus Jews, and I believe 10 million plus people in total, right? Rwandan genocide in 1994, neighbors killing each other to the tune of 1 million people killed in 3 months, right? Soviet Union, Maoist China, over 100 million people killed. Why didn't anyone stop it? Why didn't anyone do something about it? Why did people go along with this? We understand that most people are not evil, right? Most people are not cruel, evil people who are ready, willing, and able to just kill and slaughter innocent people.
Right.
We know that. However, most people are cowards, and most people always want to be in the majority. That's just the reality of it. So I can see what's happened over the past 2 years, and I'm not equating the scale in terms of like people actually being killed or whatever, but in terms of the collective mentality of how people just go along with things to be in the majority, and how fearful people are to be that minority person who goes against the grain, or who puts their hand up and says, wait, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. This is contradictory. This is just wrong. Right? So few people are willing to do this throughout this whole period. How many millions of people, hundreds of millions or billions of people, know that something isn't right here?
They feel it. They feel it. Come on now.
They also know it, right? There's nobody in this world who believes that you are protected from a virus by wearing a mask as you enter a restaurant, take 4 steps to your table, and then you take it off and you eat for the next hour and a half. But they're doing this in Chicago. They're doing it in London. They're doing it in Bristol. They're doing it all over the world. All over the world, everywhere you've been to, you see the same action.
When you sit down,
there is nobody who can honestly tell me they believe that makes scientific sense or protects them from arrest. But what it does, it avoids conflict. and it makes people fit in. So when you can make people go along with these type of absurdities, you can then ramp it up. And we've seen people ramping it up, right? We've seen in the past 6 to 8 months, the demonization of the unvaccinated.
Come on now.
Right? Now you've got countries imposing literal medical apartheid, segregation again.
Yeah.
I think even in your home city, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, right? If someone were to tell me back in 2018, oh, you know what? Like in 2021, they're going to bring back segregation. I'd be like, what? In the West?
Come on now.
Really? They're going to be like, yeah, and it's going to be for people who didn't take the equivalent of their annual flu shot. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. You'd be the conspiracy theorist for saying that, right? And now you're seeing people there like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. This is good. And also, again, scientifically, it doesn't even make sense because we know with this particular shot, we know you can still get it. There's millions of people who are triple jabbed who are getting sick now. You can still get it. You can still transmit. So even beyond the ethics and beyond the liberty angle and the human rights angle, it also doesn't even make scientific sense if the goal were to stop it. The goal is simply to punish those who do not comply. That's all it is. We're just going to punish people who don't comply. And, how can you not see the echoes of these awful things that I mentioned that have happened in the past?
It's because for the vaccinated, they're living a comfortable life, but until their lives get uncomfortable too, it'll go along with it.
Yeah, but see, this is the problem, and this is why I call people cowards. People hate it when I use the term cowards, but
I love it, bro. Call it what it is.
But that's because they know that they're being implicated, right? And the thing is, you should have principles. Like whether someone is vaccinated or unvaccinated, you should be able to be like, this shouldn't. See, the media and the politicians have created this artificial divide because that's not even what the divide is.
No,
there's not a divide between vaccinated and unvaccinated. That's not the divide. The divide is people who are pro-liberty versus people who are pro-authoritarianism / tyranny, right? You can be, I don't look, the majority of people who have taken this vax or whatever are not pro-forcing it on other people. However, most of them won't say that. Right? They won't stand up. They'll still go along with the regime. Do you see the problem?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like imagine if you go back to the 1930s, 1940s Germany, right? What percentage of German people do you think were genuine hardcore Nazis?
Shit, probably about 40, maybe.
You think that high?
Depends,
I don't think that
man.
high.
The media's history. You never know. Probably less.
I would say I would be surprised if it was over 15%.
Damn. Okay.
Right, like I'd be surprised if it was over 15%, right? Like 10, I'd say, let's say 10 to 20%.
Okay, so
like they genuinely believe the ideology, like everything Hitler is saying. Like they're like, yeah, he's right, But then, what percent are vocally against it? Again, it's only going to be like 10, 20%, right?
Yeah.
But then those people in the middle, that 80% in the middle, they'll just go with what the majority goes with. They may even like have an issue with a lot of it. They may be like, man, like this is a little bit too hardcore, but okay, I don't want to be.
Let me ask you, do you think it comes down to people pleasing too? Like not everybody, but like a percentage of people pleasing just wanting to be liked and accepted. Because I was reading this book I've been reading called The Laws of, probably botching his name, but The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. He was just detailing about at our core, we just want to be accepted by our tribe, right? Exactly. So I'm thinking about that lately. Like you want to be accepted by your peers. You don't want to be casted as an outsider. It's like, fuck, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We're social creatures, man. And in the past, being excluded from the tribe or being ostracized meant death. If you're living in a little tribe, nomadic tribe of 100 people, and you do something, I mean, that's how they used to punish people, right? Banishing them, exiling them, because that means that you're out on your own. You don't have anybody to support you. You're probably not gonna survive in any sort of tough climate because you need people around you. And so we're still wired to want that social acceptance. And it's not, like I say, it's not. This isn't all bad.
Yeah,
it's not all bad, right? Tribalism to me is a neutral thing. We're all tribalistic to some degree, and there's positive tribalism and there's negative tribalism. At its extreme positive, what does tribalism looks like? It looks like taking care of your family and being tight with your friends and being patriotic towards your country and feeling, community with your religious group or with whatever it is. That's positive tribalism, right? Negative tribalism, at the extreme negative end of tribalism is genocide, right? We now need to exterminate people who are outside of our tribe. That's like those are
what is going on right now. Man.
Yeah, like those are the extremes, and those are the poles. And then there's elements along this, right? So you could be a fan of a sports team, and there could be some banter and some trash talk and whatever between supporters of other teams. But if you get to the point of hooliganism, right, where like you see someone wearing the opponent's jersey,
you get angry,
and you go and hit them with a bottle, or you go and beat them up because like, whoa, like that's toxic tribalism. That's going way too far, right? And we've seen this manifest in different ways: racial lines, ethnic lines, national lines, religious lines, political lines. It can happen along all these different things. And so I think what's very evil, one of the very evil things that they've done, is they have intentionally stoked these tribal divisions. They've even invented new ones. Prior to 2020, have you ever heard of people, say friend groups or families, or just people in general, having a fallout over vaccine status?
Over a medical decision? No,
we've had vaccines our whole lives, and well before them. All right. Nobody ever got uninvited to Christmas dinner because they didn't take their annual flu shot.
Imagine your grandma not inviting you to Christmas because you didn't get vaccinated, bro. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. It's totally fabricated. That's why I speak on it, because I'm like, guys, this is not real. You mentioned programming before.
Yeah.
You have been programmed to now believe that your friends and family members and neighbors are an existential threat to you unless they go along with this thing. That was programmed. You didn't believe that 2 years ago.
No.
You didn't believe it 2 years ago. So I'm always intrigued when people start to believe and espouse things that they never believed before. Okay, let's take another example. One that's, a kind of hot topic, right? In which something that blew me up in a way. This whole transgender crazy issue,
Yeah.
Okay? If you go back to 2010, how many genders were there in 2010?
Number two.
Two, right? Two. And if in 2010, was anyone saying that men should compete in women's sports, or men can get pregnant, or men can menstruate, or women can...
If you talk about that, you'll be frowned upon. I fully believe that.
Exactly. 10, 11 years ago, no one was even entertaining these views. Even people who were like liberal or so-called progressive, they would have been like, no, that's silly. And all of a sudden, a lot of these people, you're now espousing beliefs that you never believed this before. So when someone does that, there needs to be a reason. There needs to be a logical reason, right? People's views change and develop, but if you're going to make a total drastic change, if suddenly I'm going to believe that 2 + 2 = 5, I should be expected to explain what it was that made me believe that 2 + 2 no longer equals 4. I believe
they can't, though. Some people can't.
Right?
That's the thing.
That's programming. That's programming, because you can't explain, and they'll say science. They'll throw out the word science out there, but it's like,
okay, what is they see on the TV? Oh, it stops the curve and it saves lives, bro. Give me concrete shit as to why you believe this.
Yeah. Like just not just repeating lines. Again, that's just the script.
That's how they do it.
And just tell me, explain in your words why. Okay, if I come across someone and I'm like, okay, this person is telling me that gender is a social construct, and there's infinite genders, and a man can be a woman can be a man can get pregnant and menstruate. I'm like, okay, please explain to me. Firstly, when you say a man, tell me what a man is. They can't even answer that question.
Yeah.
When people get into this, just ask them, what is a woman? They can't answer. They cannot answer that question. It's a very simple question. If you ask me what a woman is, I'll say an adult human female. What's a man? An adult human male. Period. They can't answer, because the whole thing is built on.
They glitching in that moment.
Yeah, it creates a glitch, because it's such a simple question. And this is the thing, you find people can't answer very simple questions, even with the whole corona narrative. There's some very, very simple questions which people just can't answer. Like when you get the people who've really, really bought into it all. And I'm like, okay, well, what about this? Yeah, okay, what about this? I'm not asking anything complicated, and it causes the glitch, and then they get angry, right? And I'm like, look, I'm not trying to trick you here.
Is that cognitive?
This is just a very simple thing.
Am I saying it right? Cognitive dissonance? Is that what it's kind of like
It
impacting
is,
in
yeah.
that?
Yeah, cognitive dissonance, sunk cost fallacy. A lot of it is also, a lot of it's just ego protection. Human beings are big on saving face and protecting their ego. And we all need to be a little bit more humble. I'm someone who's
Hell
very
yeah.
confident in my beliefs and confident in the way that I speak. But if I say something that's just like wrong or there's a better argument,
Mhm.
I don't like being wrong for a moment longer than I need to be.
Yeah.
So if I put out some stat or something where I say something, someone's like, wait, no, hang on, actually, that's not correct. It's this. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm not getting mad at them for
How dare
correcting
you
me.
correct me?
No, it's like, okay, good. Like I can now update my thing.
Yeah.
And cool. I'm operating from a better basis of information. And this is how we learn. We're brought into this world. We don't know jack when we come. We don't even know how to speak. We don't know how to walk. So everything that we know because we were wrong or ignorant at some point. Every single thing that you know because at one point you were wrong or you were ignorant, and somebody or some source of information gave you that information. That for every single thing that we know in every subject. So I'm a lifelong learner.
Updated. Oh, you gotta be, man. You're never gonna know everything. You always gotta be a learner.
Exactly.
I'd be born if I did know everything.
Exactly, man. And so there's just that level of humility. And I love these type of conversations because, everyone I talk to every single day, I want to be getting a little bit better. I want to be getting a little bit smarter, a little bit more knowledgeable, a little bit more understanding. And that comes from,
man. The moment you think that you don't know shit, you already gone. You gotta, because this is how I look at it. So you have people who fearful, yada, yada, yada. But in the core essence, I believe all this is transpiring to wake up the masses. It has to be, things have to be done so outlandish, like I'm offering you a cheeseburger if you get vaccinated. I'm offering you a Krispy Kreme donut if you get vaccinated. Little shit like that, bro. Because when I realized, man, the programming goes so deep with these people that you gotta, some things gotta sit deeper. So the more outlandish in New York, for example, people getting arrested for going to Burger King, bro, because you don't have a vaccine pass, right? Something that outlandish would wake up somebody who was still asleep, but it has to be that outlandish. So all of this needs to happen to wake up the people to what's going on with the government, big pharma, X, Y, and Z. But it couldn't happen if you didn't tell me if I didn't get a cheeseburger, then if I don't get vaccinated, I'll give you a cheeseburger. Like, what the fuck?
It's so strange, man. And it's happened so quickly. So we've also seen how rapidly people can fall into this type of programming. I think some people call it mass formation. I think what's interesting as well is it's always interesting to look at exceptions. So maybe what is interesting is, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot, especially as I've been traveling and chatting to people, is what is it that prevents people from doing so? Like, why is it that 10 to 20% of people don't fall into it? Right. So why is it that you and I are not like taking the NPC path? Like why
when it first broke off, something didn't feel right.
Yeah. So there's something unique about you because that puts you in the minority. That puts you in the minority. I was exactly the same from day one. Skeptical, right? Stuff isn't making sense in terms of the policies. I was like, no, like, wait, since when do we, what the heck is a lockdown? That's new. Like, since when do we?
Bro. This is house arrest.
Yeah. Since when in a free country, UK, USA, Canada? Wait, since when is this how we react to?
And people still want to be in lockdown. That's
I know. 2 years later. 2 years later.
Stay home.
Right. This is different. Wait, since when do you have to cover your face to go outside? Since when do you have to do this, to do that? Like, it was also unprecedented to me. And then even in terms of the early numbers and the data that was coming out, I was like, wait, this is like 90% of the people dying are old, right? This isn't something are any children dying? Okay, no, kids aren't dying. Or young people? No, young people aren't dying. Everyone is.
But the cases are rising.
Yeah, and this is information that was available, I don't know, like April 2020 or whatever. And I'm like, wait, this is not making sense. This is not proportional. This is not proportionate. And also, what's
numbers too about the cases and stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, it's wild. And and also what's going to be the repercussions of all these measures you're putting in, right? If you force people to stay at home, you stop people from working, stop kids from going to school, like this is going to have horrible consequences. The economy, people's jobs, people's mental well-being, people's physical well-being, people not being able to get into hospital for other reasons, all of these things. And, you know, I'm there being called a murderer or whatever, because I'm not in favor of these lockdowns and these draconian measures. And then, 2 years later, people are suddenly like, oh, how come there's inflation? Or how come there's a rise in depression and suicide? It's like, well, we kind of predicted this a year and a half ago. And suddenly people are acting bewildered because they were not told by the experts on, you know, those experts.
Oh, Zuby, don't forget that. Trust the experts, trust the scientists.
Yeah. So coming back to what I was saying, I think it's really interesting to see what people have in common, because I know a lot of people who are, you know, who question the narrative, and I have noticed certain traits that that people have, which I can expand on if you want me to.
Yeah, please do.
Which I think make people more immune to this. So, firstly, I noticed that there's a bunch of things. The first thing I noticed is people who are lower in neuroticism, right? People who are just generally less sensitive to fear and anxiety and worry and stuff like that, I found generally were more likely to see through the nonsense. Number two is people who were already skeptical. Let's say they were already government and media skeptical.
Yeah.
Right. They don't just buy into every narrative that's come down the pipeline over the past several decades. Right. They generally question stuff. Number three is people who are, I noticed a lot of people who are like entrepreneurs or just like genuine free thinkers, people who aren't in the matrix. They're not in the corporate world. Yeah. They don't work for the government. They're kind of independent, entrepreneurial. I found those people were generally less susceptible. And I think with that also, that comes with that as well. People who just they don't care to fit in. Like they don't feel like they have to always fit in. They can kind of go their own way, do their own thing, and they're fine. That was definitely a factor as well. What else did I notice? I also did notice generally people who are more health and fitness conscious to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. Like people who have already, prior to all this, they were already interested in staying healthy and keeping fit and whatever. People more in touch with their bodies, more in tune with all of that. So they don't see this thing and suddenly think, oh my gosh. Like, do you know what my response, like at the very beginning of this was, I'm definitely going to get it.
That was your, okay.
Right? I accepted it at the beginning. I was like, I'm going to get it. I was like, everyone's going to get it. Right. I said that from the beginning. I was like, look, if it's like this and it spreads the way it does, everyone is going to get it.
Right.
You're not going to be able to avoid this. If it's not this year, if it's not next year, if it's the year after, everyone is going to get the Rona. I accepted that right at the start. I was like, there's no way I travel as much as I do, and I hug as many people as I do, and I'm just in and around all these people. There's no way I'm going to do all that, and I just don't get it at some point, right? For me, it was January 2021 when I caught it.
At some point.
Yeah. So I just accepted that. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to make sure that I'm prepped for when it comes, right? So let me keep myself healthy. I'll keep going to the gym. I'll keep exercising, keep my body weight at a good level. And then when I get it, and then I got it. It was rough for 3 days, moderate for 3 days, gone. Within a week, back to normal. Was it nice? No, it wasn't pleasant. But it also, at no point was I like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna need to go to hospital. It's like, no, I'm a healthy dude. So that was my thing for everybody. If you're 75 years old, or you're 18, or you're overweight, or you're normal, like, what you need to do is going to be, it's going to be different. And again, this is another thing that's been wild throughout this entire thing, is there's been no conversation about actual health. No conversation about actual health.
Don't talk about your immune system. They don't talk about, getting sunlight, exercise, actually having a healthy diet.
It's not only that they didn't talk about it, it's that they encouraged / forced the opposite. Bro. They shut the gyms down. They stopped you going
that
outside.
Shit's wild to me,
bro.
Man.
Where does the virus spread?
I would say like
indoors.
Yeah. Right.
What was the instruction?
Stay indoors.
right. Like from the beginning, it was just like, wait, what is going on? Right. Who does it target? Who were 78% of people hospitalized, overweight and obese? You kept all the fast food restaurants open. You shut the gyms
Fucking
down.
crazy.
They even
Bro.
closed the outdoor gyms. They were stopping people going to the beach, stopping people going to the park, stopping people from exercising. All of the things that you actually needed to combat this.
Yeah.
It was literally the opposite. So people want to scream at me. And I'm like, guys, you're so-called experts and whatever. They literally, I'm going to say something that I don't think I've ever said on a podcast before, but I would not be surprised if the measures they made, I would not be surprised if the measures ended up being, and I'm talking actually specifically, I'm not talking even holistically. I think holistically, I think it's undebatable. But even when it comes to deaths from the Rona itself, I would not be surprised. I think there is a good argument that doing absolutely nothing, potentially less people would have died. Doing nothing. If the government did nothing, no lockdowns, no measures, no this, no, if they literally did nothing.
Let me add on to that, bro. So what people don't know, us as we're energetic beings at our core, right? So if you are telling me something, right? If I adopt that belief, the body's gonna accept it, right? So if you're telling me, doctor says, hey, Richard, you have so cirrhosis, and I believe that shit, my body's gonna react to that programming. It's gonna start shutting down. So the more fear that people are adopting every day, you want constant flight or flight mode every fucking day, bro. Every fucking day, your body's gonna respond. So now, if you think that you're gonna catch something, guess what? Your wish is your fucking command, bro. And you're gonna get that. And if people can understand that concept, this wouldn't be the case it is. But instead, if you wake up, and I'm a firm believer in manifestation and law of attraction. If you just wake up, so I'm in optimum health. You know, my body and my cells. I'm talking to my stomach. You know, and my immune system. You're healthy. You know, this, that. You have to program yourself. Don't let other people program you. Program your fucking self. And that's not the case right now.
No. Do you know what else is really interesting with it is that here's another thing I've noticed. People are more afraid of getting the disease than the disease itself. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes, bro.
They're afraid. They're afraid of catching it more than they're afraid of having it.
I really think that this is making people confront their views on death. Because this has to be, bro.
You nailed it.
It's because before we all know we go pop off at some point, right? But it's the big scary virus, bro. Prime example, my mom, she's fucking fearful freak. I had this conversation. I said, Mom, have you got your boosters? She said, yeah. And then she said, I said, Mom, do you? Because she has the shittiest diet, bro. She drinks Pepsi and she eats all this fucking fatty ass foods. And I said, Mom, that fucking vaccine and booster you just took ain't finna do shit because your diet is fucking crap. And I'm pretty sure immune system hates you right now. I'll keep it honest with her. And then she's like, it's a glitch. It's a glitch in the matrix. I'm like, Mom, you have to take care of your body. Otherwise, all the shit that you're doing is pointless. But they don't. And it's like, people forget you have an immune system and you have to take care of that thing. It's been the case since the dawn of time.
Yeah. It's very odd. Here's another thing that's weird with it. And I see this with some of the people who criticize people such as myself, which is that we live in this strange time. I was having this conversation with my brother yesterday where people think everything is binary. Everything is either or. So if I tell people, if I lean towards the side of, look, I don't think you need any more people out there telling people to wear a mask and take the shot and practice social life. That's been the programming nonstop for the past 2 years in every freaking country, right? And one can debate how effective that stuff is. However, people think everything is binary. So if someone promotes or suggests people should take vitamin D or zinc or vitamin C or maintain a healthy body weight, go to the gym, exercise, drink water, they read that as you telling people not to take the injection.
This means that, or that means
that.
It's
all or nothing. Just like they call, they'll call someone like me an anti-vaxxer, right? Taken tons of vaccinations throughout my life. Very pro, I'm pro take whatever medicine or have whatever medical intervention you need, right? I don't want chemotherapy. I don't think you should get chemotherapy because you don't have cancer, do you?
Nope.
Right. So does that make me anti-chemo? This is the logic people are using now,
bro.
Right? I don't think everyone should get chemo. I don't think everyone should take aspirin. But you know what? If you need aspirin, you should probably take aspirin. I certainly think you should be allowed to take it. I think that should be your choice as an adult, right? But now people are, this is the thing, it's so black and white. If you're not pro, then you're anti. If you're not anti, then you must think it must be forced upon people. And it's like, look, most people are in this gray area on most things. Like, that's just how it is. There's nuance. And it's so do you know why else it's so funny? It's because people who fall into this thing, these tend to be the same people who like to call themselves pro-choice on abortion.
Come on now.
Right? So, I mean, I think with a lot of these people who are like pro-vax mandate or whatever, but call themselves, I think it's fair to call them just pro-abortion these days, because like you're clearly not supposedly pro-choice. What happened to that whole my body, my choice? It's like, well, hey, if you're going to say that, if you're going to say that, at least try to be consistent. And then they'll be like, oh, well, it's totally different. It's totally different.
It's different when it's not being done to them. As soon as it's done to you, then it's like, no, you playing victim. And nah, bro.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, look, at least if you're going to have some ideas or some principles, to what degree I agree with them or not, that's one thing, but at least try to be remotely consistent. Like the level of just hypocrisy and goalpost shifting and saying this one day and saying that the next. I mean, bro, even last year, especially in the USA, in the last year, it was the people primarily on the left who were very against this particular injection or vaccine. Even up to the level of the current vice president. Right? There were all these very prominent Democrats. You can see them on, Defiant L's on Twitter, whatever, right? Literally saying that Trump is trying, because people forget, look, the shots came out under the Trump administration.
Exactly. They're like, don't trust it.
They were saying, and they hated Trump. We don't trust it. It hasn't had enough testing. Yep. Trump is trying to kill us. I'm not going to be the first person to take this. Anyone who takes this thing is an idiot, blah, blah, blah. That was all coming from people primarily on the left side of the aisle. Now, these same people have got triple vaxxed in their bio. They've got Team Pfizer in their bio. They're saying that anyone who doesn't take
get some stock in Pfizer at this point.
And I'm just like, guys, this has been less than 1 year. In 1 year, you've shifted that hard. And so with people, I have a long memory, so it's hard for me to take people like that seriously at all. Exactly. It's all there. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, again, if you've switched that hard, what was your reason? Explain. What was it? Was it just the president? They don't have the president changed. The president changed, and so suddenly your whole opinion on this thing, the same product, all of a sudden you go from being, I'm never going to take this, to everyone who doesn't take it is an idiot.
Yep.
Interesting. That's, I'll be looking at someone like that, be like, okay, bro, like, can you not see that? Surely you can, at a minimum, even if you have genuinely changed your mind, surely you can understand the hesitancy because you used to have it. So at least you should be able to empathize with people who are like, I don't know, I'm on the fence, or I've looked at the math, I don't want it, but all of a sudden, again, it's that binary thing. Either you must do this thing or you're just a bad person. There's no, there are people who literally to this day are still like, I can't think of a single reason why somebody wouldn't take it.
Bro, I have conversations like that too. So I have many.
Really? You can't think of one reason?
Come on.
Really?
No.
And you think you're a smart person? I can think of 10 off the top of my head. I can also think of reasons why somebody would, right? Like, it's not that hard.
Have you ever had a conversation? I have a buddy now speaking with his mom, and I'm big on like whatever you believe. We all have free will, so whatever you believe is going to be true, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not here to try to persuade you. Just whatever you believe, you believe. And when you tell people that, and it stuns them, and they can't, they get so pissy. They're like, "No, you're wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm right, and you're right." Let's just leave it at that. I'm not here to persuade you. Yeah. They don't want that.
And I'm not trying to force anything on you, man.
Right.
Like, do what you believe is best for you. When it comes to the world of like medicine, for sure, do what you believe is best
for you.
Like, make an informed decision, right? Don't be coerced. Don't be bullied. But again, on both sides, by the way, because I know that there are people who are like trying to not get anyone, like almost stop people from taking this particular shot. Just like there's people trying to force people, and that's a bigger number. There are also people who are like, no, like nobody. And I'm like, look, man, I'll tell you, do you know why else I'm careful with all of these things? Is because I don't want to have anything on my conscience where I tell somebody that they shouldn't take it, right? And maybe they are actually in an at-risk category, right? And I somehow tell them, or I influence them, tell them not to, and then, you know, they end up getting the Rona and having a really rough time with it, right? Then I'll feel like, oh man, I shouldn't have told them that. Similarly, I'm not going to go around and be like someone, you should definitely take it. And then they're one of the rare people who get some really bad side effects, and they get some blood clots, or they get myocarditis or something. And now I'm like, man, now I'm feeling guilty because I told them, I was there trying to bully you and cajole you to do it. It's like, no, look, have the information, know the risks on both sides. Yeah. And then that's up to you, man. You know, you're an adult. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not even, you know, as people like to remind me, I'm not a doctor, right? It's not my thing. I was just like, look, man, it should be up to you. Like it's your choice. This is not different with anything whether you're talking ibuprofen, hay fever medicine, freaking aspirin, like everything that we do as a surgery, right? Every surgery has risks. Yeah. So I generally don't think you should get a surgery you don't need, because then all you're doing is exposing yourself to the risk. But if it's like, hey man, you've got problems with your heart, with your liver, with your lungs or whatever, and that's going to potentially kill you if you don't get an intervention. Sure, the intervention also has risks. Yeah. But, you know, look, we do risk calculation all the time. Every time you leave your house, you're taking a risk. Every time you get in a car, you're taking a risk. You get on a plane, you're taking a risk. Always. And again, I would not want to force anybody to get in a car that doesn't want to. There are people who are afraid to get on a plane. There are adults who have never been on a plane because they're afraid the plane is going to crash. You know what? I support that right. Yeah. Do I personally think that is like reasonable? No, I think you're being overly risk averse. Especially if you're going to get in a car and drive the same journey. Like mathematically, you're not making sense. Nah. But I don't want to force you to do any of that. If you want to take a plane, I support your right to take a plane. You don't want to get on a plane, support your right. You don't want to get in a car, I support your right. You want to drive, I also support your right. You know, all of these things have risk. I trust that adults can make these decisions, you know, and there's stuff that I think are bad decisions. I think it's silly to smoke. I think smoking cigarettes is a bad idea, right? You're just exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. Science is super duper clear on this. Like, we know the facts, we know the data, but hey, if you want to smoke, you know, I'm not going to be that guy who's like, you know, like if you're close to me and you're one of my loved ones or something, and you're going to give you a bunch. I might be like, you know, encouraging you not to, just like I'd encourage you to lose weight or whatever, if you were very overweight. But ultimately I'm like, yo, man, that's on you. And, you know, there's potential consequences in the long term of that. But, you know, I'm big on influence. I'm not big on coercion.
You're not. Let me ask you, bro, when did you start taking the gym seriously? I just started. So funny story. Last time these roast dinners, man, these Gregs out here, they get your ass. Last time they'll fucking get your ass, bro. Last time I was out here, I think it was last year. You just get comfortable, man. You eat your roast dinners, you eat your Gregs. I put on so much fucking weight. And then when I got back, I was like, you know what? I'm about to hit 30 next year. I've wanted to like hit my like God peak body for a while. This is the perfect excuse. Not excuse, this is perfect motivation. So I started lifting heavy and just getting into powerlifting. So I've been lifting for about 6 months now. It's a mental discipline. It's like the most fucking gratifying thing ever. And then when you see, now this has taught me between instant gratification and delayed gratification. People give up when they don't see results, right, in the gym. But you might not see a result like visually to convince you for 4 months. When I saw a fucking bicep form on my arm, I'm like, fuck, I gotta get this bitch bigger now. And it's just motivation, man. When did you start lifting? When did you start taking this shit seriously?
Sure. I started when I was 15, man.
Damn.
I started 15 and I never stopped. Like I've been pretty consistent with it since my mid-teens. I wouldn't say at 15 I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I'd go to the gym and just like, you know, kind of lift stuff and whatever. But, you know, I mean, I made some pretty good gains. I think like I first bench pressed 100 kilos. What's that? About 220. Yeah, I did that when I was 17. Damn. So about 2 years in. Because I used to play rugby. I played rugby from the age of 11. Shit. So I actually first got into training because I wanted to just get stronger and fitter for rugby. Because obviously being, bigger and stronger is generally an advantage. So that's actually what got me going. So there was a gym in my school. I was in boarding school, so I'd go there. And then I lived in Saudi Arabia at the time.
Oh man.
And I used to go to the gym there with my friends. So I've been on it for, I'm 35 now, man. So pretty much 20 years I've been training. And
Damn.
I've been consistent. I never really fell off the wagon. I think the longest I've gone without going to the gym was actually last year during the lockdown beginning of this year, where they closed the gyms from like December 2020 to
I will go crazy
May 2021 or something. That's the longest I've actually been in 20 years without going to the gym. I still trained, but that's the longest I've been without actually entering a gym.
Fucking, I got enough, man. I can't even skip a session.
Oh man, dude, it's life changing, right?
Completely.
It's life changing.
After this episode, I'm going to lift.
Dude, this is why this is the thing, right? Like, because people who aren't into training, which is actually unfortunately most people, they don't understand just how beneficial it is. I think because of how it's been framed, I guess, is people think it's just like so many, the amount of people who think the only benefit of lifting weights is to like have bigger muscles or to look more aesthetic. I'm like, dude, you are missing, it's so much more than that, both health wise, but also in terms of like you mentally, and also just what it teaches you. Because if you can be disciplined,
you have to be
right. If you think of what is necessary to change your physique, whether that's building muscle or it's losing fat, to change your physique, to gain 20 pounds of muscle or to lose 20 pounds of fat or to lose 50 pounds of fat, if you can, what does that take? It takes a plan. It takes consistency. It takes perseverance. It takes discipline, right? It takes the ability to deal with obstacles. You can apply those to everything in life.
Bro, that's what that shit taught me.
You can apply it to everything in life. It's the same as starting a podcast. It's the same rules. It's the same rules as starting a YouTube channel, starting a business, getting into a relationship, whatever it is. It's the same rules. So I'm so grateful I established that keystone habit very early. And I'd actually put some of my successes down to that, because I think that was one thing that made me really realize, okay, oh, do you know what else I love about the gym in particular?
What's up?
Is that it's just you.
It's you.
The weights weigh the same every time.
Yep.
They don't care about your race. They don't care about your gender. They don't care about your sexuality, your nationality. They don't care how you feel. The weights do not care. It's totally objective. Bro. No one can lift it for you.
Nope.
Nobody can eat for you. Like even in other sports, if you're playing a team sport, I could play a great game of rugby or a great game of football. Could still lose if my team doesn't play well or the other team's just better. But if I'm on point, like it's just a battle against yourself.
Yeah, it is.
That's all it is. There's no excuses. You can't be like, oh, well, my teammate didn't play well, or my side let me down, or this happened, or that's like,
it's like you let yourself down. You didn't finish that rep. You gave up after that third set.
Yeah, the weights don't change. It's the same. You go in one day and you can lift this, and then you go in 6 months later and you can lift 20% more or 30 or 50% more. All credit to you. You go in and all of a sudden, when you lose strength, that's the worst. And it's something you could lift before and you can't lift it anymore, or like you could run a certain distance and you can't do it anymore. It's like, well, that's on me. Sure, maybe there could have been an injury or something, but barring that, it's like, you know what? I was not consistent enough. I've gone backwards. And also I have the power to go forwards. Oh crap, I gained 10 pounds. Okay. I have the power to lose this 10 pounds or whatever. It's all you have the 100% on you. So when it comes to personal responsibility, I think there are a few things that train that better than the gym, because we live in this era where everybody wants to blame someone else. You want to blame the system. You want to blame that person, that group. You want to blame this, blame that, blame that. No excuses, man. No excuses. You can lift it or you can't, right? It's so objective, either you got stronger, you got weaker, you stayed the same, you got fitter.
It's you.
That's all.
It all comes down to you. I know you on what? Your podcast on episode 189?
Something like that. Yeah.
Damn, bro. Like that. How are you? Because you got to be consistent in the podcast game, and you've obviously been consistent for so long. What's I guess what tips would you give to anybody starting a podcast or just being consistent in that field? Because you got to love to do it, man. You can't just be episode once every month or once every 2 months kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first advice I'd give to people is to not overanalyze and to start, right? To start and to understand that imperfect. You can start something and improve over time. Right. So you don't need to get things perfect. And it's impossible to get things perfect off the bat. Right. The first time you go to the gym, you're not going to know how to do all the exercises correctly.
Your form's going to be awful.
Your form's going to be off. But you know what? Get in there and start. Put your body in motion. Yeah. Get yourself in motion. So I'd say the same with podcasting. I would also say, look, I'm not a big fan of starting something unless I believe that I can still be doing it 10 or 20 years from now. So if you want to start a podcast, think, if this doesn't get any major traction or success until 2031, am I okay with that? If the answer is no, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah.
And be honest with yourself, because not everything is for everybody. Yeah. And that's important to understand. Not everybody is supposed to have a podcast. Not everybody is supposed to be a singer or a dancer or a rapper or a YouTuber or whatever it is. So you have to think, okay, am I going to commit to this, right? If you want to learn a language, are you willing to maybe not be an expert at it until 2031 or 2032? Because that's what you're taking on. Say you want to learn Japanese, right? You're not going to learn Japanese and be fluent in 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? Not native level anyway. Like if you're really smart and you've got a great method, you could be speaking, but really think about it on that long-term basis. And I say this as somebody who started my career and put out my first album in 2006. But honestly, if I'm being real with you, didn't see any real success until 2019.
Wow.
Right? 29, that's 13 years. So imagine if in 2016, I was like, man, I've given this 10 years. I'm going to pack it in, right? You wouldn't know who I am. 99% of people who know me wouldn't know who I am. All those be like, I would have just stopped too soon. So, but when I did this, I left my job in 2011. And a big question I had was, oh, how long are you going to give it? And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm done.
I made up my mind. I'm done.
I'm out. Back. I'm not coming back to this. I'm good. I'm done. I have no plans to ever be employed again. I'm done. And people didn't get that because I was like, mid 20s.
Yeah.
People are, you're going to give it 1 year, 2 years. Because you know how it is with music as well. People think you just put one song out and it blows up and, all of a sudden you get this money and whatever. It's like, it can happen, but it's not typical. But I was just like, look, man, I'm going to make it in some way. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like or how high it's going to go or whatever, but I have so much confidence that I'm stepping away from this thing. I'm closing this door. I deleted my CV. I remember specifically, I deleted my CV and I was like, I don't even like
not using this shit no more.
No, like, I'm out and I don't know what success is going to look like, but I will achieve it. And I will achieve it off of my own growth. I didn't know I was going to write a book and start a podcast and, become known because of a silly deadlift video or whatever. I didn't predict, I'm going to go on Joe Rogans. I didn't know how it was going to go.
Yeah.
But I was like, I know if I'm consistent with this and I just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other, it's impossible for me not to be successful. As long as I keep moving forward. Like imagine you're running a marathon or even walking a marathon. As long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to finish the race.
You're gonna see results, man. As long as you don't.
You might see other people passing you, and some people running faster, but you'll see some people who run really fast. And then they get injured, and you end up beating them because they ran too fast and they got sick, right? And you're going to see like all sorts of things happening. But as long as you keep on going, you will reach some level of success. How high is it going to be? What's it exactly going to look like? Very difficult to predict. Very difficult to predict. But you just keep on going, and you will see success as long as you are doing something that has a demand and you're doing something that you are at least good at. You don't even need to be the best in the world, but you're at least good. You're good enough. And here's another important thing for people to know is that good enough is good enough. Good enough is good enough. You don't need to be, not every single thing you do all the time has to be totally world-class.
Yeah.
But good enough is, and also perfection is the enemy of good, right? If you're trying to get everything perfect, then you never
starting. And that's procrastination.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, perfectionism is really just advanced procrastination. That's what it is. It's right. If you think about it, it's advanced procrastination. It's like, okay, I want to get everything perfect. So you don't end up releasing anything, Instead of putting out this podcast, you're there trying to like, it's not totally perfect.
I don't have the intro music right and blah, blah, blah.
And so you never put it out. this is when you get people, they want to start a business and they get stuck 3 months on the logo. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't even need a logo.
Right.
You don't need a logo. Just start. But you're trying to avoid the hard stuff. So
it's the ego, man. The ego wants you to stay comfortable where it's at. And just gives you a shit ton of excuses why you can't drop that shit.
Yeah. People do the same with books. Like, I love reading. I'm a huge advocate for reading, but you get people who, they'll just read books. They don't apply anything. They're like, yeah, I read 4 books this month. And it's like, okay, well, what did you apply?
Exactly. That's the whole point.
You read 20 business books in 2021. So, all right. So where's your business?
Zuby,
how much money did you make?
What's your top 3 all-time books? Would you say?
Oh, wow, man.
No order.
Any genre? It might be
any genre, bro. Any genre. Your top 3 books, bro.
Boy. I think I got to start with the Bible, because that's the basis of every self-help book. Every self-help.
That is basically is a self-help.
that is the basis.
First one ever created.
Okay, I'll put some out I'll tell you a book that really helped me to understand the world better, which was The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt.
Okay, The Righteous Mind. Okay.
Yeah, it's called. The subtitle is Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. So whether you are someone who considers themselves more liberal, more conservative, more on the left or on the right, or libertarian, whatever it is, or you consider yourself an atheist, an agnostic, a theist, it will help you to understand people better who do not share your views. It will really help you to understand them better. And that was a really good book I read that just made certain things click for me. Made certain things click and be like, oh, okay. Now I understand better why I'm the way I am, but I can also understand this person who may be my ideological opponent or just not see eye to eye. I can get them better. So that was a very powerful book for me. Another book I'll give you 4 actually. Another book I read, which is, it's not the best written book in the world, but the idea is very powerful. The Millionaire Fastlane by M.J. DeMarco.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good book, just in terms of thinking about how and why some people are very financially successful and most are not, and how you can, how those different lanes work out. It's essentially a concept of having the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane, and how you can put yourself into the fast lane and become a multimillionaire, and even billionaire if your system's good enough, and why most people are not even in that lane, and how you can position yourself into that lane. So that was a very valuable book to me. And the last one I'd say is, these are ones that just like affected my thinking in a big way. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone.
Fucking love that book, bro. Fucking love that book. Great book.
Just motivational, in terms of like, just, you got to put in effort, right? You've got everything you've got, whatever goal you have, just 10X it. 10X. I mean, when I first, before I read that book, when people used to ask me what my sort of North Star goal was with my music and everything else, I always used to say, I want to have a positive impact on over 1 million people. And then I read the 10X Rule and I was like, all right, scratch that. I want to have a positive impact on over 10 million people.
Yeah. And
you know why it's funny is because at this stage right now, as we record this, I mean, I've already got over 1 million followers now. So I was like, all right, because in the book, it's like, you're setting your sights too low. And I was like, oh, geez, now I like, because at the time I had like 40,000 followers across all social media. So I'm there, like 1 million was like, okay, 1 million that's a big increase. And then I read this book and I was like, oh boy, okay. I'm really underestimating what I can do. I'm thinking I probably need to raise it to 100 million.
Shit.
But those are a couple books those are some books which really made something click for me, and which I would say directly impacted my life in a positive way by implementing some of the things that I learned from them.
That's fucking powerful. I'll get the last 2 questions, Brooks. I know you're a busy guy, man. How would you advise people to like best position themselves with everything that's going on right now?
Wow, that's a big question, man. I would encourage people to, here's something I've learned. I guess I already knew it to some degree, but it really has hit home, especially in the past year, which is that, man, there's a couple things. Number one is that a lot of people are working for employers that don't respect them. So I encourage everybody who has an entrepreneurial bone in their body to strive for self-employment. Mm-hmm. I'm also a realist, and I understand that self-employment for various reasons is not for everybody and may not be attainable for everybody. If you can't do that, work for somebody, work for an organization, an employer, a startup, whatever it is, who genuinely respects you as a human being. Right. When I'm seeing all these people who are being, forced and pressured out of their jobs with all these mandates and this and that, I'm like, man, your employers don't respect you. Right. I don't have any full-time employees yet, but the idea that I would like try to force this upon them and like, push them out if they don't want to make this, like, I'm like, man, that's just a respect thing to me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so it struck me that millions of people, it's like, man, your employers don't even respect you in the slightest. If they're willing to get rid of you off of that, I'm like, bro, they don't respect you. They don't truly value you. So that would be a big one. But yeah, the ideal, I'd say, is to have self-employment, at least to some degree. Having only one source of income, man, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's dangerous. I mean, I can disclose that I've probably got about 10, but you need to have multiple sources of income. Everybody should have some kind of side hustle or side business or something like that. People should be investing. Learn how to freaking invest, please. Like the gap between people who invest and people who don't is gigantic and is going to continue to grow much, much bigger. And when I say invest, both in yourself and financial investment. Like learn how to invest, learn how to compound your growth, learn how to compound your finances. When you earn $1, learn how that you can turn that into 5, right? When you earn 10, learn how to turn that into 50. Like if you can do this, things you can look into: index funds. Obviously, if you're higher risk, then you can look into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. Be very, very cautious about that. But just in investing in general, super duper key. Another thing I would recommend as well is just being, how would I put it? Being psychologically prepared. Think about, have a good think if you haven't already. Have a good think about what your principles and your values are. I think a big reason we're in this mess is because a lot of people are unprincipled and they'd never really previously thought about, okay, what are my principles? What are my values? What are my lines in the sand? What am I willing to do? What am I not willing to do? How much is too much? What's the point where I'd say, you know what? No, I am not doing that. I'm not doing that. It doesn't matter. You can call me names. You can bully me. You can push. No, I'm not crossing that line. Whether that's I'm not snitching on my neighbor or my family, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not, like, everybody should know where their line is. Because if you don't, then you can be used, and you can be used by very evil people, and you can be pushed and you can be forced into positions where all of a sudden you look up and holy crap, you're the person in the jackboots holding the gun, rounding up your neighbors, right? And literally or metaphorically. So people need to really think about their principles, their values, and understand things they can compromise on and things that they can't. And I think that's just self-knowledge, but it struck me that some people have that established, but I think quite a lot of people don't. And so it's allowed a lot of the craziness that's perpetuated in all these countries to happen because people are kind of just being blown. Imagine leaves just blowing in the wind.
That's people,
right? Yeah. So you've got some people who are just like a tree. Like the tree just doesn't move. The leaves blow a bit, but it's just there. And then other people, they're just leaves. It's like, oh, it's just they're there, and then they're there, and they're there, and they don't have anything solid.
That's a perfect metaphor.
Yeah, they're just going wherever the breeze takes them, and that can be dangerous. That can be very, very dangerous, and it can lead to atrocities at the worst point. I also want people to understand that I know sometimes I use I can talk sometimes. Sometimes people get weird when you kind of talk about like the dark elements of humanity or the dark elements of history. But the reason why I bring them up is because it's very important to understand how things can get to that stage, because everything's on a scale. Everything is on a scale. So I'm not saying that what's happened over the past 2 years is directly equivalent to the communist regime or the Nazi regime or some genocide or what. I'm not saying that, but you have to understand the tactics and the propaganda and the psychology that even allowed those things eventually to get to that stage. So when you find yourself somewhere along this thing, have you seen that thing that's like the 10 stages of genocide?
No.
Have you ever seen that? Okay, you should Google that. Google the 10 stages of genocide. Okay. You got, okay, yeah, you can pull it up in front of you if you want.
10 stages of genocide. Because like you mentioned, you have to understand the psychological things of why people are the way they are. Then you don't take it personally at that point.
Yeah, so Google the 10 stages of genocide. Do you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
No, like a 1 to 10 list.
Yeah, I see it. Classification.
Do you see that?
Symbolization. X1Z. Yeah. Last stage is denial.
Right. Okay. So consider the past 2 years. Okay. Where would you say some countries are?
Shit, I think we have persecution at number 8, and then we're at number 8 personally. I think
no, I don't think we're at 8, are we? Eight's beginning of murders, theft of property, trial massacres. I would say that we are certainly somewhere between. We're somewhere, depending on the country, we are between 3 and 7.
Okay, 3 is discrimination. Okay, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
So say the Vax passport, like that's definitely number 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually kind of number 3 to 6, because we've got dehumanization, organization, government creating specific groups, military and police to enforce policies. Damn. Number 6 is polarization, the government broadcasting propaganda to turn the population against the group. Sound familiar?
Damn. Yeah.
Places like Australia, you're on number 7. Official action to remove and relocate people, right? They've got their camps over there. So, we don't want things to get to number 8 or number 9.
Oh, no.
But it's important to look at this and say, because these are the steps that every genocide, if you look at it in history, they've all been through these stages. So when you find yourself like, holy crap, we're on number 5, we should be like, okay, like let's nip this in the bud.
Wake up, people.
The rhetoric, the anger, the in-group, out-group thing, it's getting too hot, right? You don't want this to happen on racial lines. You don't want it to happen on national lines, religious lines, and any lines. You don't want this to happen. And I like to remind people that human beings haven't changed. We're the same. We're the same as we were 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Like we're the same. What we have is we have more stuff, and the big advantage we have is we have the benefit of history, so we can look. So how do I know that So say with some of this corona stuff, you've got cities and countries that are actively reinforcing directly discriminatory and segregationist policies.
Yep.
I'm not using that as hyperbole. That's what it is.
Yep.
Right. You're reimposing segregation. You could call it jab crow. How do I know that's bad? Because we've done it before.
History repeats itself unless you learn.
We've done it before, man. Right? You had apartheid in South Africa. You had segregation and Jim Crow in the USA. You've had various policies in different countries which say you're right. Like, people have different rights or different liberties depending on various aspects of them. It could be this, it could be that. Right now, it's medical status. We know that that's bad. Yeah. We know that it can lead to a lot of resentment. Ultimately, it can lead to violence, persecution. It's also just wrong, right? Our countries are supposed to be based on the idea of treating people fairly and equally, right? Wasn't that the whole civil rights movement?
Exactly.
Wasn't that the whole women's lib movement? Wasn't that the whole, gay rights movement when it was in its proper form? That's what it was. It was like, look, people should just be treated equally under the law and socially. If people are peaceful people, you shouldn't just be discriminating and attacking and being prejudiced and whatever. And now people are falling back into it. It's come under a different banner this time. It's come under a different banner.
Different mask this time, same shit.
By the way, though, it's not even a totally different banner because it's the same banner that Hitler used. It's actually the same one. Public health. That's what Hitler said. He was saying that the Jewish people were spreading disease in Germany, and that is how they had health pass. They had the health papers there.
Yeah,
and people had to show their paper.
Yeah,
it's like
same shit is going on. Damn,
guys, like, so I'm not saying like, hey, we're in the middle of a Holocaust or something. I'm not saying that, but it's like
they're using the same strategies as
They're using the same strategy. You see what's going on in the media, and you're seeing the like rhetoric they're using and the way they're like attacking. You're talking about anyone who's the unvaccinated. Like, it's like, guys, stop. Stop. Like, this isn't the way forward. I'd be freaking out as well if you were doing this on talking about people of a certain race or people of a certain thing. It's just like blaming the world's problems on a specifically identifiable demographic is not good. It creates resentment. It makes people feel a certain type of way. It raises the temperature. It makes people look at their neighbors with suspicion, and then you get people who are, it's just not good. So we have the benefit of history to know this. One could argue that in history, maybe they always should have known this, but some lessons are learned very hard, but we've already learned them. So please, let's not repeat it again.
Let's go, guys. Zuby, man, I always ask this last question to my guests. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. What would your message be to humanity during this time?
Do you know what it would be right now? Be calm down, chill out. Honestly, like the temperature has just been raised so much. People are having so much fear, and I've never at any point in my life known so many people just to be living in fear. Some people are still in fear of the virus itself. I think far more people are in fear of the government and like what they're doing, and they're fearful. But what's in common is just fear. People are afraid, people are anxious, people are worried, people are concerned, and rightfully so to some degree. But I think that when you operate from a position of fear, you are very easy to manipulate. You are very easy to control and program. So I think people need to get out of the fear mindset, and then they'll regain their senses and realize that the world is not, the world's not ending. Right? We're not all going to suddenly die and everything's going to go to crap or whatever. And so just calm down, chill out, enjoy your life, get out of the fear loop, and then we can truly just go back to normal life, like just like truly normal, just truly normal. No weird stuff. No, somebody coughs and people want to run and hide, and people are lining up for 2 hours to get tests when they're not even sick.
You asking you just wanted at that point, fucking stand in the line for 2 hours. That's another conversation.
Yeah, like just chill out, man. Just chill out. I know, because the media and the governments, they're gonna put as much fear in you for as long as they can, and that's because they want to control you. Yeah, and that's because they want to control you. So you can make that conscious choice to just be like, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm living my life. I'm not demonizing my friends, my neighbors, my fellow citizens, my family. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to go into the new year, enjoy stuff. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go to parties. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to just do what I want to do, and things will be okay. That would be my message. Just calm down.
Let's go, man. Yeah. I would do so. And to add to that, it's this book, guys, that I recommend anybody to read. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. If you can understand that you program your thoughts and your body and your reality, you will understand how the media and the government are hijacking that knowledge of self to use against you. So anybody who's listening to this right now, that's my part 2 Bible. Read that book if you haven't, guys. Such a powerful book. Zuby, bro, this was a great episode, man. Like, you're an awesome guy, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it, Richard. Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to provide all the links at the bottom. Guys, as always, you're the creator of your own reality. Be the best you. Don't judge others, and shit, just keep being awesome, man. Much love.